If you believe everyone deserves a place to call home, whether they live in McPherson or across the country, you can make it happen. At Housing for Good, we shine a light on housing challenges, spotlighting real people, real stories, and solutions shaping communities near and far. And with your support, we can go further in ending instability for good. Donate now at McPhersonHousingCoalition.org to help transform shelter into stability for someone, somewhere today.
Welcome to Housing for Good, a podcast dedicated to housing topics and issues affecting our communities in McPherson County and beyond. With years of experience and expertise, hosts Chris Goodson and Karolyn Moore discuss housing challenges and opportunities with other experts from a variety of housing fields.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Housing for Good. I'm Karolyn.
And I'm Chris.
All right, Chris, I have some news today.
You have news?
I've kind of dropped the ball the last couple of
You have dropped
recordings, but I just wanted to point out that in 2022, do you remember the crazy look you gave me when I wanted to invite Lily Millwit from Washington, D.C. to come and talk about housing, not handcuffs?
Right.
And then, so that was 2022. Mm-hmm. In 2024, we watched the Supreme Court rule.
Okay, we got to explain to our audience who was Lily Millwit and where was she from?
She was with the National
Alliance to End
National Homelessness Law Center.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about how there was going to be this movement come across the United States. They had started to see it, where instead of helping people get housing, people were going to push to make homelessness a crime.
So we actually invited her to give you some context. We have a housing conference every year, and we invited her to our housing conference just to talk about this thing. And boy, some of the mayors in our communities were having a fit.
Yes, they got very really upset because they had no plan on making it a crime. They had no plan on doing anything to hurt somebody that's homeless. Mm-hmm. And Lily pointed out, if it's on the books, you might not do it, but there'll be somebody else that will.
That's going to make you enforce the things you have on your books instead of taking those off of your books. And so we created quite the controversy, which is always fun to do. You know, I love to shake things up a little bit, even though, but it was really fun. But I mean, and people, the other part about it is where we live, nobody believes that there's any homelessness anyways.
I know.
Let alone we're going to enforce this homelessness action that we have on the book. So anyway, so where were you going with this?
So I was just going to point out, then in 2024, they had the Grants Pass versus Johnson, where there was a homeless person, and the Supreme Court, it actually went to the Supreme Court, and they said, if somebody's homeless and they're not doing anything to be housed, you can make it a crime and you can have them arrested. So they did that. And then this year, like we're 4 years after this now, after we initially brought it to people's attention, every state in the United States, except for 3, have laws on the books, over 350 cities, some states more than others, where now you can be arrested if you are homeless. It's a felony. It's the craziest thing I ever heard of. It's crazy.
I mean, I don't know what people are supposed to do.
I don't either.
I mean, if they don't have any housing for them, there's no options, there's no any kind of facilities. What are you supposed to do? Jump in the river and drown?
There's not enough housing.
Doesn't make any sense.
If there's not enough housing, there's not enough housing.
Yeah,
so.
It's crazy. Okay, so that was a good one. I mean, so did you have any statistics about how far down, about how bad it's gotten now in the last 4 years since it started?
Because not really statistics. What it said was, like in Kansas, there's 1 to 2 cities that have made it a crime. They have some states where it's as many as 25 plus cities. So it really is a city by city thing. Mm-hmm. But we're watching that blow up across the United States. Something that people said, that'll never happen. So
crazy. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get to our guests.
Let's get to our guests. Yes. So today we are joined by Shanelle Dupree. Yeah. And Shanelle, tell us about your professional journey and what inspired you to create Dupree Perspective.
Yeah, well, thank you, Caroline and Chris, for having me today. I'm so excited to be here. So I'm Shanelle Dupree, and I have a consulting firm called Dupree Perspective, and it's really just a culmination of my various experiences. I always say I am a Midwesterner that is a strategic connector, and I have deep roots in the Midwest, from Oklahoma to Kansas to Nebraska. And my career is really one that was literally born out of the foster care and child welfare system. Three out of the four of my grandparents were raised by someone else,
Oh,
and
wow.
have experienced all of the things that you can think of within the family and child welfare system, including houselessness, including domestic violence, including all of these different things. And when I look at my grandparents' journeys and then what they were able to build, and then what my parents in turn were able to build on top of that, I feel and I know that I have a deep responsibility to just give back and to operate, I call it, with humanity and with empathy, which is unlike what's happening with those laws you were just talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. I know.
Yeah,
I know. Don't you wish you could zap some of these people into these
You
situations for
know,
just like a
you
day and put
you
them in that,
said
like,
it.
yeah, but I don't know that that's a thing, but, or make them
Uh,
have a dream, right? Or
But
something.
it really is a thing. Like there's organizations who have like the, experience being a foster child for a day, like taking people through the journey. And
Yeah,
when you think about like houselessness, it's the same thing. Like think
yeah.
about what it would mean not to have a place to call your own. And so my career has looked like, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer very early on, and that's the path that I took. Was always interested in just child welfare and foster care and what it means when family works well, and then what it means when things don't go as planned, and how can we still work in that space and not just disregard people as others, right, as less than. And it's also connected very deeply with my faith. My father's a pastor. I married a pastor, which he
Oh,
was not a
wow.
pastor when I married him.
Oh, he
And so
tricked
I
you.
feel like I
No,
was, yeah, he did. He
kidding.
did.
Oh, that
And
is,
so,
it's amazing that when I hear these stories, a lot of times people who are in the middle of this that are very passionate about foster care and homelessness and all that poverty and generational usually have some deep connection to it.
for
And you're
sure.
just like the other people that we've talked to, that deep passion that it's the
Yeah.
crazy ones like us, I think, who really get things done and
Yeah,
have a perspective that not only do we know what it looks like, but we know what it looks like to get out of it
for
and
sure.
what is necessary to do that. So how would you say that this homelessness and this foster care are deeply connected? Because I don't think people truly understand
Oh my
how are
goodness.
those connected? Why would your grandparents, sounds
Mhm.
like a lot of them had that
yeah.
situation. Well, how is that connected? I mean, we put that together for people that are listening.
Yeah, so I mean, I just have to tell you about really one of my grandparents, and it's going to connect like all the systems. So she
Okay.
was born to a mother who had extreme schizophrenia. And so there were like extreme health issues, and her mother could not really raise her. So she was raised by her grandmother, who was raising like six or seven other children as well. So they were living in extreme poverty in Texas. And my grandmother, she ended up connecting with a man who was extremely violent and had his own issues. And she became pregnant a couple of times and lost two of the children to extreme domestic violence. And the third child was my mother. And my grandmother said, this isn't going to happen again. And so she left, right? And married a man who said, we're in this thing together. And they moved and found stability in the railroads in Nebraska. So they moved for economic needs and stability. And education was really important to my grandparents. And so they both, although they came from very hard backgrounds, they both had their high school diplomas. And so, I mean, there's just so much that was connected with her history that led to kind of where we are now. And so she looked at what she grew up with and realized we have to have stability. We have to have, all these different things. And so my mother's and her siblings' childhood was just completely different. But it wouldn't have been if there wouldn't have been that one person that was able to step in. And that's oftentimes what we're missing when we think about these systems and what's needed and necessary for families. I was listening to a couple of podcast episodes that you all did on childhood trauma. And what you both said was that you had that one person, like there was at least one positive adult person that was in your life. And when we think about the child welfare system, oftentimes that's what we don't have. We don't have that stability. We don't have that one person that understands we got to have a place to live. We got to have things to eat. They don't have those tools. And so when I think about like the child welfare system, it's oftentimes people are like, well, why can't they just figure it out? Why can't they just get it together? Well, it's oftentimes so many things that are happening at once. And one of the things that often goes is housing, stability. Because if you don't have a place to live, right, then where are you going to go to school? Where are you going to bathe? And if you go to school and you don't smell good, then people are going to be concerned. And then there's going to be some reports. And so poverty and homelessness and houselessness and the foster care system are all intertwined. And there's so many different professionals who at times can like step up and intervene. But the way that our system is set up is reporting. So we have a hotline, right? That happens that every state has. We have a hotline system. And the way that we, I think, use the hotline, it's been weaponized against parents on a certain level. Oftentimes, people just need support. They need help. They need that one person. They need that one thing. They need that month of just stability so that they can continue to move forward. But instead, the system can get involved. And sometimes when the system gets involved, it can disrupt and just cause a lot more harm than help. I said a lot.
No, this is so, I'm over here like, this is so good. I think that's what our audience needs to hear is the reality of all of this. We're in a situation right now with an agency, with a state agency, and really they're not accountable for what they're doing. They don't like to be called on the carpet. And whenever you do that, you feel this pushback. So here we are, this agency with very talented people who, really know what they're doing, and we're getting pushback. I can't imagine being a single parent trying to fight a system that is designed against you.
Yeah,
and you talked about this. It's just wonderful. I think this is such good information for people.
Well, and I was on a conversation yesterday where we talked about how do you work together when this particular entity over here is so worried about confidentiality and they can't disclose, and yet somebody over here in this other agency has something they need to talk about, and we need to be able to talk together about stuff. And it just isn't happening. And so we trying to overcome that and figure out what do we do as a community, as a group of different agencies to move everything forward and be able to talk together. Okay, so you mentioned that housing instability is a big factor in child welfare involvement. What are some of the warning signs that a community or that an agency or the school, somebody should be looking for that would maybe help head that off a little bit?
Okay, so let me tell you, the thing about the foster care system and what the law says, usually in every single state has something, and it says something to the effect that poverty cannot be a reason why children are separated from their parents. That's not supposed to be the reason, but that's often the reason because poverty and neglect get conflated, right? And we misunderstand it and what it looks like, and then what the impact of it is. And so And so we have this well-meaning law on the books that says, okay, we understand that poverty happens and people shouldn't be punished because of poverty, but then we don't really understand how we can decipher whether someone is willfully abusing and neglecting and withholding the support from the children, or whether this is a life happened and these series of events happened and this person is scared that you're going to piece that we don't talk about, like how people need to be able to trust the help that you're giving. Because there have been so many people. I remember I had a client once who went to the agency and said, she didn't say it very nicely, but essentially she said, I need help. And
Well,
she said, I need
whole
help.
podcast we could talk about. But
Absolutely. But that's what she said. And they took her kids and she was having, I think she was having like I know she was having like a mental breakdown. She really was. Her husband had just left her. She was overwhelmed with her children. Her housing was shaky at best. And her children were removed. So when you think about what it looks like to actually ask for help and then get good help, like not be punished when asking for help, because that's a real thing that our system has done and that we've seen. And so it's like helpers, I call like teachers and therapists and, social services and law. Those are helpers. Like these are people who probably aren't being paid what they should be paid, but they have this innate desire and like their purpose is connected with what they're doing. And so they know that I'm not going to be who I should fully be if I don't do this hard work. They're willing to do the work, but I don't think that we've done a good job of equipping them to understand what it looks like for trust to truly be developed, and then how the systems that we're operating in can be helpful or harmful. And then like grappling with that and having a real conversation about that. Because, for instance, if you have a teacher, and teachers are very close to what's happening with children and with families, and oftentimes people who are very close can see things before others see things. But if we train our teachers to just say, report, when in doubt, report. Well, that's not actually what the law says. The law doesn't say when in doubt, report if there's reasonable suspicion of child abuse or neglect. But this is the other piece. We really don't spend a lot of time grappling with that with our teachers. I've heard of some school districts where their mandated reporter training is like 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes for the whole year. So there's no like deep thought. There's no conversations. There's no, okay, maybe it's not neglect. Maybe this really is poverty. And how can I intervene in a way where I can connect them with resources, or I can connect them with the school social worker? Not that we want for teachers to step into like those roles, but I do think that there is a shift in the messaging, and there has to be, because I believe that we've incorrectly scared our mandated reporters into not having like thoughtful discussions or considerations about how we can actually support and help families.
Well, and if you have never lived in poverty, you don't understand.
You don't understand.
I know
For
so
sure.
many middle class people they don't understand any of it. When I go to groups that I'm involved with church or different activities, they just look at me like, what are you talking about? I can't even comprehend what it would be like not to have food, or run from a spouse, or domestic violence, or any of those things.
Yeah.
They can't even comprehend that. So how in the world would they differentiate in a classroom whether this kid's being beat up by his dad, or whether the mom just doesn't have food for her children, or a place to live, or clean water, or maybe she got her hot water shut off that day because she couldn't quite make the electricity bill.
For sure.
All of those kind of things. I mean, I experienced a little bit of that when I was a young mother, because I had a child very young, and experienced a little bit of that. And I knew, you know what, I can't live like this. This is not how I want to be. I knew housing was the most important thing that I could do for my child. And that's exactly at 19, I bought my first house. And I knew that if I couldn't do anything else for him, that is what I needed to do. To put down roots and make sure that my kid had a place to sleep at night and everything that he needed. But I don't think middle class people and upper middle class people get it. And how do we open their eyes, like you're talking about, these mandatory reporters?
I have so many thoughts.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you talk here. Yes. So what do we do here so that we train our teachers, we train our doctors to see something from a perspective that they do not understand.
Yeah. Okay, so it's this thought process of, well, I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. I did it. If I did it, they can do it. But there's a quote that I love, and it's, you didn't make better choices, you had better choices. Like it's the idea. Yeah, it's the idea that it's the idea that
on my wall. I love
put it on the wall.
I put that on my wall. You should see my office. I don't know if there's any more space on there, but we could put it on one of these panels. I love that.
Yeah, it's the idea that no, the reason why you're in the position that you're in is because you were positioned that way. That if you had to make some of these like dreadful choices, you would be in the exact same place, and you would want, you know, and I think it's also like connected to like my faith and like understanding that, oh my gosh, like it could have been me. Like it could have been me. It should have been me. All these different situations. And so that's the work that I do. Like I work and I talk with organizations about really experiential, like having people to experience something. There's a training that I do regarding my nonprofit. It's what is the training? It's the cost of poverty. I don't know if you all have heard of that.
I have not
but
heard
it's
of that. Have you heard
it's the
that?
cost of poverty.
No.
So it's the idea where we really have people walk through the day in the life of a person who is struggling. And there's an organization that puts it on. It's a great way to get people to experience. We've done it with like juvenile justice systems. And it's crazy because what people resort to, they never thought that they would do. They never thought that and this is a game. Like this isn't real life, but even like in confronted with what do I do when I need to go to the social services office, but they're closed, but then I'm supposed to be working in order to get my food assistance, but then I'm supposed to report to probation, and then I need to, like, you have all these different things. And what people realize when they begin to actually like put themselves down, step into empathy, right? Step into someone else's shoes is, oh, they're carrying way more than I ever thought. And the choices that they are confronted with are hard, but that's also where the best ideas can be born from, where we can say, oh, we can do this better, like as a system. Like it doesn't have to be this hard. Why are we making someone talk to 10 different agencies? Let's just get get these agencies in the room, have this person tell their story one time so that they don't have to,
years.
So that they don't have to keep.
Why are we doing it this way? This is the
why are we
thing.
doing it this way? Why are we in? And you all have really great episodes, and I love just your realness and how you talk. But you had an episode with a gentleman, I think in Oregon, and it was about Spark. It was about Spark and just connection. And you're right. Like it can be so hard to get people in the room, and but that's the key. Like, that's the thing. We have to get the different systems in the room, and we have to have them. Like, what is the one thing that we are all like going to rally behind? What is the thing that we're doing? But one of the barriers is that all of our systems say different things. Like, I have a whole program where I'm walking people through what all these acronyms mean. Like, how do you navigate the child welfare system? Because if you're new and if you're stepping into it, it can feel overwhelming. But it's the same thing regarding the housing system. Before I came on, I was Googling, what does this acronym mean? I wanted to understand. About? Right. And so, like, how do we break down those barriers? Just talk regularly. Just have these basic conversations, but then understand like where we connect and where we fit. And in the child welfare world, poverty is not supposed to be a reason why children can be removed. But once they're removed, poverty and lack of housing is absolutely a reason why children don't return home.
Absolutely.
We have seen that in our own journey with clients. They'll reach out to us and say, I am trying to get my children back, and the last thing I need is some place to house them. I can't get them back without that. And so it's already a huge barrier for people who, for whatever reason, lost their housing.
Yes.
But then you have folks that they can't even reunify their family without the housing.
Yeah.
And so just trying to tackle all of that can just be overwhelming. And we are the professionals that try to do that. So if you aren't a professional and you're already overwhelmed with life, it can just almost seem impossible.
I had an experience, I'm thinking about also the shame, and it takes away, when I was 18-ish, I had to go into a welfare office to ask for assistance. And if you watch Gone with the Wind, where the famous lady that's there, and she said, "As God is my witness, I'm never going to let this happen again." And so I went in there, and it made me feel like I was less than nothing. I walked out of the interview, and I said, "As God is my witness, I'm going to figure this out for my son and I, because I will not allow myself to feel like this. And I certainly don't want a child that I have to feel less than." Right.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I'll never forget that as long as I live. And I think it was a very nice man. I'm sure I horrified him, because I literally I said, "I am out of here." He goes, "Well, what do you mean? Don't you need help?" I said, "Not that bad. I'm out." And from there, I did. And I've had all these life experiences that taught me. And I don't know why. I think I had good parents growing up. They were good people. They'd had a lot of struggles, but they were good people. So I think somehow I just had enough that I knew that there was something better, and that I could figure it out. So I feel very fortunate with all the crazy stuff that I've went through, that I was able to walk that system. But I remember how awful I felt, literally enough to walk out. I'm out. I can't. I refuse to be a victim, and you will never make me feel like one.
Yeah. No, you're so right. I worked for the state agency for 5 years, and it's a real thing. Like, I remember we were trying to partner with I think it was like a housing organization in Atchison, and they just wouldn't connect with us. And so we went and we sat in the office, and we were just meeting and having a conversation. And she finally was just like, "I remember when my mother was talked so down to when she had to go to the SRS at that time office to ask for help." And she just had this thing about it. And I get it. So it's like, when you're vulnerable enough to walk in and ask and try to get help, and then on top of that, if you're mistreated, that's a whole thing. And so that's why some people don't ask for help. They would rather not have, and they may not have the tools to figure out what to do next. And so it's not surprising why we do have folks where it's like, "Oh, all you have to do is go to this. And they're like, "I would rather not." But that's what happens with our youth who age out of the foster care system. They are so sick of the foster care system. They're so sick of us, right? Telling them what to do, where to go, how to be, that there are resources, but they would rather not access the resources and try to figure it out on their own. And it's not until years later, typically, that they come back and they're like, "Okay, what is it that I can get help with now?" And so it's a whole thing. But we need people who are in the system, who are willing to be creative, who are willing to think outside the box and push the limits. I remember when I was representing a mother, and she was dealing with addiction, and she was at an Oxford house, which is a house for sober living. And she was able to bring her daughter there, and they lived there, and we were able to reintegrate her into that housing. It had never been done before. The court was like, "I don't know about this." And I'm like, "Judge, this is what she needs at this time. And we can't just keep this case forever just to see. She's going to have to figure it out." And so we were able to do that. But there are just so many times where people work in agencies, organizations, and are like, "I don't know if we can do it." Why not? Try.
Right? Yeah. If we're doing the same old thing and it's not working, why do we keep doing it? Why are we not changing our systems? Listen to the people who are living it, who have lived it, and who've gotten out of it, and figure out that's the one thing I will say about the Housing Coalition. We do not do everything exactly like because we've always done it that way. If we do something and we're like, that didn't work out so good, how can we fix it? Yeah. What can we do differently? So we do that a lot here. I will say that. I'm not all about doing it exactly how we've done it, because that doesn't work. And it hurts people. Yeah. It really hurts people, and especially it hurts children. And for us, that's where our heart is always with the kids.
So, Shanelle, if you had to say what a successful collaboration between housing providers, school, behavioral health, healthcare, child welfare, okay, what would that look like if all of those agencies were collaborating and working together?
So I call it my connection vision board. So I have like the visual of it. And that means that when a family, and I'm kind of speaking about it from like the child welfare perspective, but that means that like when a family comes in, that they're connected with like their economic needs, education needs, government, law enforcement, health, the court, social services, prevention, education. But then the one that a lot of people often forget is heart resilience. Like we need people who are connected to this family who aren't paid to be there, who are going to be there after everyone else leaves. And like I heard you all talking and you were saying that usually 2 years is the limit that you have to work with families with some of the different programs that you have. That's a lot of different folks. Like even in the court system, you only have a certain amount of time before we're going to termination or doing something else. And so there have to be people there who are embedded in that family's life, who is going to be with them when things are good, when things are bad, when things are okay, when things are regular. So who is that? And they can help to be like that nucleus and that glue regarding how, what a family needs. They won't need all the things all at once, but at some point in time, they're going to need all these different systems to work together.
Okay, that makes me think about, is it CASA, where there's a court-appointed person to go
Special
with
advocate,
that child? What if you had, not court appointed, but what if you had somebody that maybe it's just their friend that can come and be at all of the meetings, can be somebody that can talk to the agency because this person is overwhelmed and I'm a third person. Kind of like a mentorship type thing. I wonder
there was
about
a group that we had. Remember, we interviewed that one lady that they were trying to keep kids out of foster care.
Yes.
And they would move it. I don't remember what that's called. Yeah. They were moved in with the family, and they really
Say Families for Children.
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, I worked for them for a while.
Okay, so see, I'm glad somebody knows what we're talking about.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know if an agency like that. Again, it's paid versus not paid, and it sounds
they're volunteers. Those are volunteers. But it's that.
Yeah, go ahead. The other thing I think about is, a lot of times we ask our people if they belong to a church or a support system, because that is that can be, depending on where you're going, a very good support system for a family, and especially for your children.
For sure. But, I work in the legal world. And so I used to be in the courtroom a lot, but I would have to like kind of fight to advocate to say, no, their spiritual like guidance and their pastor or their church, like it's as important as a therapist. Like, let's not discount or act as if this isn't important, because it is. But no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness.
We can talk to her for days.
Every time.
So good.
I say what a good podcast it was. Shanelle has been an amazing guest.
Yeah, this has
been a wonderful conversation. I think that we probably need time to process. My brain's a little overflowed.
I know we didn't get to half our questions.
I know, but that just means we have to have her come back.
I know. And we invite people back a lot, because we like to talk too much, and then you don't get a chance. And I don't know, it's crazy.
This was so good. So good.
Yeah. I think we really got a lot out. And, and we have to remember that we have people listening nationally, internationally. So we always want to give them insight into what is going on in all kinds of systems, and foster care systems. And homelessness are very well connected, as you said, and it's very important that we figure that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll be in touch to have you come back.
Yes.
If you would be interested in being on our podcast, or you know somebody that we should talk to because they're an expert in whatever area they're working in, please let us know about them. Leave us a review. Give us all of that information and ask us questions. You can do all of that at housingforgood@mcphersonhc.org.
And have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.